Okay, we are in Portion-Deuteronomy weekly Torah portion, and it is the beginning of the book of Devarim. Everybody always asks this, so we'll run through the art scroll because regardless of how many times we do this, people have the same question. Is this something that Moshe wrote on his own, or is it that God wrote this? God agreed to what Moshe was writing. The reason we get into this whole discussion is because it doesn't say, Vayidibir Hashem al Moshe lemor. It starts off with the Eile Hadavarim Asher Diber Moshe B'Kol Yisrael. These are the words that Moshe spoke to all of Israel, Be'ever Yordain, across the Jordan, on the east side of the Jordan, I should say, not across. Bamidbar in the desert, Ba'arava in the Arava, Mol Suf opposite the Yam Suf. Ben Param between Param, Ben Tofel between Tofel, and Lavan Chatzerot Dizahav, in these places, Lavan Chatzerot and Dizahav, which is referring to, Rashi explains, the instant of the golden calf. Rashi is running through all of these to tell us that each one of them has to do with a negative thing that happened to Bnei Israel, and Moshe is just giving them the landmark with language that the Jews will understand. But if somebody else is running through the system, unless they have Rashi, they're not going to understand why so many place names. Okay, so that's, like I said, the main question is who is writing this? Is it God telling Moshe to write this, or is Moshe writing this and Hashem agrees to it? And so that's what that's what Art Scroll is picking on the bottom. So if you just look at it, because it's always worthwhile running through this, because people always ask the same question about this, and so you'll have some ammunition to answer the question with. So it says the sages refer to Deuteronomy as Mishnah Torah, which is the extra Torah, if you will, which is commonly translated as repetition or review of the Torah or explanation of the Torah. Since all the commandments were given to Moshe at Sinai, or in the tent of meeting during the first year after the Exodus, that's Ramban. The question remains on what basis the narratives and commandments contained in Deuteronomy were chosen. Rev Hirsch explained that Deuteronomy was Israel's introduction to the new life it would forge in Eretz Israel. Once they crossed the Jordan, the people would no longer see God's constant presence and daily miracles as they had in the wilderness. They would have to plow, plant, and harvest. They would establish courts and a government. They would forge social relationships and a means to provide for and protect the needy and helpless. They would need strong faith and self-discipline to avoid the snares and the temptations of their pagan neighbors and false prophets. To stress these laws and values and exhort Israel to be strong was a function of Deuteronomy, its laws, and Moshe's appeals. Thus, Deuteronomy is not merely a review of the earlier 4 books of the Torah, since of the 200 laws which are contained in this book, more than 70 are completely new. That's what Hirsch is saying. Rather, in his final weeks, Moshe reviewed and taught all the laws of the Torah and the entire history of Israel. But in this book, the Torah records the parts of teachings that were most relevant for Israel's life in this land. Okay, that's all Hirsch. Deuteronomy is unique in another way. In explaining the difference between the admonitions of Leviticus and Deuteronomy, the Talmudic sage Abaye says, the former was said by Hashem, and the latter was said by Moshe. Maharal explains this at length and shows how it applies to the contents of Deuteronomy. The Vilna Gaon makes the same point succinctly. The first 4 books were heard directly from the mouth of the Holy One, blessed be He, through the throat of Moshe. Not so Devarim, Deuteronomy. Israel heard the words of this book the same way they heard the words of the prophets who came after Moshe. The Holy One, blessed be He, would speak to the prophet today, and on the later day, He would go and make the vision known to Israel accordingly. At the time the prophet spoke to the people, the word of God had already been removed from him. So to the book of Deuteronomy was heard from the mouth of Moshe himself. So according to the Maharal, while it has the same sanctity, it's because it was said by God, but still now we have Moshe doing it and not Vayidibir Hashem al Moshe lemor. It's a bit removed. Thus, in this book, Moshe was the speaker. This is indicated by the fact in Deuteronomy, Moshe says, Hashem spoke to me. Whereas the constant refrain in the rest of the Torah is Hashem spoke to Moshe. In Deuteronomy, Moshe chose the words and conveyed the commandments as he understood them. Indeed, Onkelos translates the term Mishnah Torah as Pachegen Oraita, the copy of the Torah, meaning that it clarifies and explains the Torah. In this sense, Devarim begins as the oral law conveyed by Moshe, and then when Hashem commanded him to inscribe his words in the Torah, it became part of the written Torah. It is especially because of this that Moshe is called Rabbeinu, our teacher. For he was not only the conduit through which Hashem's words were transmitted verbatim to Israel, he was also the teacher who explained those words. That's Rav Yosef Dov Soloveitchik. So our scroll takes everybody, puts into a nice, neat package, basically saying, yes, there is a difference between this book and the other four books, but at the same time, it still has the sanctity of the four before. Okay, so you have to still be careful. You just have to be careful about the words that are used, and we can't just throw it away. But it seems to be, as Hirsch is saying and others, that we're getting our first taste of the old tradition. Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes the first statement makes sense now. You know, I received it from him. He wrote it down already. In other words, he said, "These are the words."
Right.
So you already had written it down.
Correct. So now that's what's going on. Yeah. And so again, if you go to a little more, it says veiled rebuke. The entire book of Devarim was spoken by Moshe in the last 5 weeks of his life. So his ongoing lectures here. It was his last will and testament to his beloved people, because they were surely confident that they would not succumb to the alien influences and temptations of Canaan. He began his words by reminding them of the long strings of sins and rebellions that marked the 40 years since the Exodus. If they and their parents could sin when they were surrounded by miracles, surely there would be greater dangers without constant reminders of Hashem's presence. But in order not to embarrass and offend his listeners, Moshe did not mention these sins explicitly. Instead, he alluded to them by using place names or veiled references. Okay, so again, Moshe doesn't want to insult us. We've done this a couple of times, but like I said, it's always worthwhile just to see it, because people always get this stuff confused and they just run wild with it. But it's what it is. So he speaks to all Israel, and again, you're looking at the different places. So if you look at Rashi, for instance, it says, he brings most of this stuff down, so I'll just keep going with him. When it says in the Midbar, so it says, shortly after leaving Egypt in the wilderness of sin, the people complained that they had been led into the desert to starve. First complaint, Arava, what happened in the Arava? So he was told this was in a particular plain. First, a place where many Jews were seduced by the Midianite women. Another problem, the opposite, the Sea of Reeds. When they were hemmed in between the Egyptians and the sea, the Jews said, were there no graves in Egypt? Why do they have to bring us out here? Paran, what happened? That's where the spies were sent from. Tophel and Lavan, Rashi quotes Rav Yochanan, who reviewed all the, we have reviewed all the scriptures, but I have not found the place named Tophel and Lavan. Rather, both words refer to the complaints about the manna. Tophel can be referred to as tiflut, calumny, and Lavan can be considered the white, the color of the man. Chaserot is where Korach's rebellion took place. Zahav is the abundance of gold. God bless the people with the abundance of gold, and they have the golden calf. Okay, so all of these things, again, somebody else reading this is not going to know what's going on, but we have a tradition as to what these words mean and why Moshe had to start with these words. So we know that he was rebuking us. So we know automatically that in the last 5 weeks of his life, this is the last big chance to remind us that we can mess up royally. Okay, and that's really what he's trying to do. Because we're all thinking, we're going to a new land, we'll all be set, we'll start farming, we won't have time to sin. Right now, if you ever go on vacation, right? When you go on vacation, what's the first thing you do? You can oversleep. You can oversleep. The first day of your vacation, you won't be able to oversleep because your body is used to waking up on time. Okay, so you're going to wake up on time. But by the time the week is over, This is assuming that you have, like when I go to New York, you can get a minyan every half hour on the hour for Shacharis. Okay? So when I start out, of course, it's going to be simple. I'm going to be waking up like I always do in order to get to this minyan. 7:15, no problem, I get here. So there I would always make the 7th, 8 o'clock minyan, right? As time goes on though, because I can't get to 7:30, it's too far away, so 8 o'clock. So I'm always going to make the 8 o'clock. But as time goes on, I'm not going to be waking up at 7:15 anymore. If you give me more time, because I know I can go, my mind is telling me every half hour on the hour you can go. So, and Shema is until 10:30. So I now have time to sleep. And what's going to happen, by the way? I'm going to go to sleep later, because I could, and so on and so forth. So it's going to work itself out. But by the time I finish vacation, I can be going to the 9 o'clock minyan. What's the big deal? Because I'm sleeping. Why? So I've had that much time. So now what am I doing the rest of the day? Am I learning more? Am I doing this? No, I have to do, I have to, when you have all these things to do, you have more time to waste. So you end up doing things you shouldn't be doing, eating more than you should be eating, and so on and so forth. Fine. So with all that, you have to be warned that when you go to the promised land, you think you're going to be busy. Well, that's going to take you away from certain things that now you have more ease doing. Is it going to be good or bad? So he's telling you it's going to be bad. He's trying to give you warnings that you're going to be looking in all the wrong places for everything, just like you did, even when you had everything.
Right. So I don't know if it's
Say it again? Remember, you're on air. Everybody's on air.
It's an appropriate analogy, but there's an expression that I particularly enjoy called, it goes like this: this is why we can't have nice things. Would this be applicable to that?
I'm not sure what it is, why we can't have nice things.
Like when somebody drops a plate, or when somebody leaves something dirty, or they mess something up, and the consequences come back to bite them, and the other person says, it's like an I told you so kind of thing.
Oh.
So here's a list of all the places we've been to. This is why we can't have nice things, because you guys keep messing up. So don't think the new place is going to be any different. You have to change. You have to. It's on you.
Oh yeah. Okay, fine. Right. So it'll be on you. Right. So he's giving us those warnings. 100%. Okay. So then the next pasuk is Achad Yom Chorev. So 11 days from Chorev, Derech Hasir, on the way to Mount Seir, Ad Kadesh Barnea, on the until Kadesh Barnea. So Rashi on all these. Again, we're going. With the Ashkel, it says, after the sojourn at Mount Sinai, which is located in the larger area known as Chorev, God said that the time has come to enter Eretz Israel, and instructed them to use the route that skirts Mount Seir. Normally it would have been an 11-day journey from Kadesh Barnea, but Hashem was so anxious for them to enter the land quickly that he miraculously brought them there in only 3 days. Okay, so this should have been more than adequate proof that Hashem was guiding them. Yet the people wanted spies to reassure themselves that then they believed the calumnies about the land, the negative stuff. So here Hashem is taking a 11-day journey, turned to 3 days. This is the first indication, well, not the first, this is one of the many indications in the Torah of a wormhole. You know what a wormhole is, right? Okay? So you have what we call Kafitza Derech.
Star Trek.
Yeah, Star Trek and everybody else.
No, from this morning. No, Star Trek.
What?
Before the class started this morning, it was the
Star Trek. Okay. Right. But so you're seeing that we have an ability to go through matter and space in a relatively short time. Okay. So Vahi Ba'arba'im Shana, it was in the 40th year, Bashi Yasser Chodesh, Bechalachosh, in the 11th month, in the first of that month. Diver Moshe El Bnei Israel. So Moshe spoke to all of to Bnei Israel, like all that Hashem commanded him to them. So Rashi explains, we're learning from this that Moshe only reproved them or rebuked them at the end of his life. And who does he learn this from? Rashi asks. He learned it from Yaakov, that did not reprove his sons except when he was nearing death. That's when he spoke to Reuven and everybody else. Why? Because he feared that if he would have rebuked Reuven for all the times that since the time Reuven messed up when he was 15 years old, and he kept rebuking him, so Reuven would have gone to Esav his brother, his uncle. And he didn't want that. So Moshe learned from that you don't tell people off until the very end. And then it's your last chance, so okay, you're going to put that in. But it should not be to make the people feel bad about themselves. Rather, it should be an instruction as to what to do after that. Okay. And then it says, now, in the next pasuk, very important pasuk here, it says, Acharei hakoto, et Sichon melech Amorим, after he had smitten or killed Sichon, the king of the Amorites, Asher Yoshev Cheshbon, that lived in the land of Cheshbon. He had Og melech Bashan, and also Og, the king of Bashan, Asher Yoshev Ashrut Edrei, that was living in Ashrut Edrei. So Rashi again says, what happened here? Moshe said, if I reproof them before we enter a little bit into the land, right? A little bit. Yomru, they're going to say, what's your problem? You're only coming to find an excuse. What's the excuse? Because you don't have the power. He has no power to bring us into the land. So that's why he's telling us off. He's hiding his inabilities and blaming us. If you ever watch any good politician has, I don't care who the politician is. I heard it since I was born and watching presidential things. Certainly the debates. Why are we in debt? We're in debt because the previous administration put us there. If not for the previous administration, we'd be good. Okay? And you hear that all the way through. And it doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on. Okay? Even Obama till his sixth year was blaming Bush. He kept saying it's because of what I was handed. And now, Baruch Hashem, we have Mr. Trump who can do the same thing for Obama. And Mr. Obama handed me this. I have to work hard just to get rid of it. And he keeps banging that tom-tom too. So, it's the same thing over and over again. So, if you're going to use that sort of argument, and you haven't done anything, so you're just blaming your inability on the other. And that's, by the way, when you hear it in the first year, when Obama said in the first year, second year, or Bush, or whoever the president was, who always blamed on the previous administration, when they said in the first year or second year, we could say, fine, we understand. But not in the third and fourth. Not in the sixth and seventh. It's done. Stop blaming him. Stand up on your own, big boy, and do what you're going to do. Okay, be a big boy about this. So here, the people would have said to him, the only reason you're saying this is because you couldn't get the job done. So he waits until he defeats Sichon and Og. At that point, since they already came into the part will be Greater Israel, if you will. Okay? So now we can tell them off. Because they can't say you couldn't get the job done. Because he did get the job done. He can't go for a different reason. Because God said no. But he still got you into, first base. Okay? Leficha, that's why Rashi says, Leficha himtin. That's why he waited ad sheyapil and ad shehipil sichon v'olivneihem v'yarisham v'artzam v'yachrei ochlicham. That's when he told them, once he defeated them, now he could reproof them. And now, why are you picking on these people? Sichon, the reason is because Rashi says, Ilu lo haya Sichon kasha. Let's say Sichon wasn't a strong king. But still, haya shoy b'cheshbon. He was living in Cheshbon, which was kasha. It was a difficult place to take over. It was well protected, apparently. And let's say he was in another city. But Sichon shoy b'tocha, and Sichon would have lived in that city. That would have been, he was a guy who was hard, because the king was, so how much more so? Now you have the place that's impregnable, and also the king that's hard. So you have, the best of both worlds, and yet he still beat them. Okay, that's the point. With all that, he still beat them. Of course, it's all Hashem doing it, but nonetheless, you're getting the point, right? So as long as Moshe gets them in, now we can tell them off. And then it says, Be'evar Yarden, on the east side of the Jordan. Be'eretz Moab, in the land of Moab, Ho el Moshe. Moshe began Be'er the Torah zot le'shleimor, to explain the Torah, saying. And ho'il means, again, he began. Be'er Torah, what does that mean? B'shivim lashon pirshlehem. He explained it in 7 languages, 70 languages. Why he had to do it in 70 languages, don't ask me. But the point is 70 languages, he explained to them, which could mean either in all 70 languages, so that when somebody comes to them, they can talk to them in their own tongue, so making everybody multilingual. That's something else. They're also going to write it down in 70 languages, or it could be the 70 different facets of Torah. You can say a lot of different ways. People understand that, though, to be quite honest, as just 70 languages. That's how they understand it. Rashi, right here, he says right here that, number 5, this clearly refers to the elucidation of the commandments that begins in chapter 5. He explained the Torah in many languages, Rashi says, to symbolize that wherever Jews would be in the future and whatever the language of the lands of their exiled Jews would study the Torah in the language that they understood. Okay, that's also something that while I should learn Hebrew, I'm a very big person for pushing that we have to learn the original. But nonetheless, let's say I don't know the original, and I am not able to at this point. So no problem with learning it in English or Ladino or German or whatever language is out there. You have to speak. You have to know, though, that when you're doing that the person who translated it was a good translator. But of course, as we know from Hebrew class, that when you translate it, you've decided what that meaning of the word is. The word can have multiple meanings, and you've decided what it is, so that will change the very essence of what the Torah is saying. So you have to be careful with translations, regardless of what's doing, but that's what it was going on. And he says, before beginning the actual discussion of the Torah, Moshe went into a lengthy account of the episodes that had caused his own exclusion from the land. He meant to show that since he would not be with them in the future, it was necessary for him to teach and warn them while he was still alive, to prepare the nation for its future without him. The Ramban gives a brief outline of Deuteronomy, having said in this verse that he would explain the Torah. Moshe wanted the people to understand the importance of heeding his words and not relying upon their righteousness to guarantee their future success. He began, therefore, by chastising them for the sins that had caused them harm, and he had not yet been forgiven, at least not completely, namely the sin of the spies that caused him to languish in the wilderness for 40 years, and the sin of the rock that prevented Moshe from entering the land. Then he repeated the 10 Commandments, taught the Shema, which proclaims the oneness of God, warned against idolatry, or urged them to realize the enormous good that would come to them from observing the commandments of the Torah. So Moshe has a big job ahead of him in his last 5 weeks. Okay, verse 6. Hashem Elokeinu diber leinu. Hashem, our God, spoke to us Bechorev in Horeb, saying, Rav lechem shev b'harazeh. You spent enough time at this mountain. It's time to leave. You can't stay forever. So he says, Rashi explains that there's a lot of reward for you here. That a lot of reward for staying at this mountain. What happened? Asit the Mishkan, you made the Mishkan, menorah and the kelim, you made the menorah and the vessels. Kabaltim Torah, you accepted the Torah. Manitim Zahem Sanhedrin, you appointed yourself to Sanhedrin. Salarifim, Saramayot, all the whole court system. You did a lot here. It's time to go on. In other words, people would be very reticent to want to leave. Here I am at Mount Sinai. I have everything that I want. Right? Why should I go to this promised land? Everything is right here for me. Isn't that how we all feel? Right? Because when I go to the promised land, it means I have to stop working. I like where I am. I like yeshiva. Yeshiva is a wonderful place. 3 times you get the meals, you get the water, somebody cleans up after you. I mean, think about it. Hashem was doing that for us, right? He gave us the clouds. We had air conditioning. We had heating in the winter, whatever we needed. We had the bed. Our clothes were taken care of. They grew with us. It was wonderful. Okay, the food's taken care of. We had everything you wanted. We had the machlokes. Anybody want to have machlokes? We have machlokes too. But you had to ask your Rebbe something. You can wake up at 24/7. What else did you want? So okay, once in a while you had a kavara. You had to bury somebody. Okay, but otherwise it was nice. It's a nice little place to live. So here Hashem is saying, okay, enough. You made the Mishkan. It's time to move. Let's go. Fine. So then what happens is, Pnusu lachem. So turn and travel for yourself a bow. That's also interesting. Travel for yourself, Zuderech Arad, to Arad, and you're going to come and you're going to go by the mountain of the Amorites, El Kol Shchenav and all its neighbors, by the Arava, the mountains, the valleys, the lowlands, the Negev, the south, and to the sea coast, Eretz HaKanani v'Halvanon, the land of the Kanani and the Lebanon, Ad Nar Gadol Nahar, Ad Nar Parat, till the great river, which is the Euphrates. Okay, Re'eh and see, command. Natatu l'fnechem al ars. I have given to you the land. Bo'u or Shu al ars. Come and inherit the land. Okay, so or possess the land. Asher nishba Hashem levatechem, that Hashem swore to your fathers. LaAvram Yishli Yaakov, to Avram Yishli Yaakov, L'teit lahem, to give to them, L'zaram acharim, and to your seed after them. So Rashi explains, Re'eh, see with your eyes. Be'enechem atamrim, see with your eyes. Eni omer lachem umad mishua. I didn't say, I'm not telling you by reputation, as it were. I'm showing you the land. Okay, you're not just hearing about it, you're actually seeing it. And now we also have a discussion, if I remember, if this is where it is. I wonder, does it say it? There's a whole discussion if we can, it's an argument between the Nachmanides and Rashi, when we can go into land. According to Rashi, they said, I think it's on this pasuk, it says, come and inherit the land that Hashem is giving you, but it's on condition that you drive out the other people. In other words, once you drive them out, then you can have it. As compared to Nachmanides, says, Nachmanides says we have the mitzvah to do it, and I think it's that way. And Rashi says, if we kick them out, then we can stay. If, there's an if, not a command. Right? Understand the difference? I have a command to make a war versus an if factor. If we can drive them out, then we can inherit the land. So that would be the major argument that filters through the years. Do we have the authority to just go in and wipe out and get rid of the people there?
Wait.
Yeah. I think it's on this verse. I don't have the Ramban with me, so I'm not sure.
So one of the views is go into the land, wipe out the inhabitants, remove the inhabitants, and then take over.
Say it again?
Go into the land, remove the inhabitants, either kick them out or
inherit the land.
Inherit the land and take over, so it's just you in there.
Well, according to Rashi, here Rashi says. Rashi says, Ilu lo shalchu meraglim, if you had not sent spies, and you wouldn't have needed weapons.
Right.
Okay, so when he says come in and possess, all you need to do is to come. Nobody would have opposed you. The land would be yours without even a battle.
Right.
So that's how Rashi is looking at that pasuk. So it must be a different pasuk that we're dealing with. But we're going to come. I forget where it is, but it's talking about you have to get rid of the people. But there's an argument like that. So if we can drive them out, then we can get the land. If that's Rashi. But the Ramban says we have a mitzvah to drive them out. Yeah. So now what's your question?
The if part sounds like if we can drive them out, then we can inherit the land. That sounds the same, which means
No, one's an if statement, which is not a command.
right. So if you drive them out, then you can stay, but if not, you can't, or if not, then you can, but they're there. What's the if not? There's always an if not if there's an if.
No, if you can't drive them out, you can't inherit. Then you won't be there.
Okay, and then the other one is
You have a mitzvah to go.
Then you have
You have a mitzvah to fight.
You can't just stay out of Israel. You have to go into Israel now.
Correct, and you have to fight.
As opposed to if you're not able to do it, then just kind of wander
Right,
outside.
right. But that would also be a continual command
Right.
into this very day. we would have to go in to possess the land. Even to this very day, according to Ramban, we would have that commandment. Okay. Maybe it's not in this verse, but I know it's in this parsha. So I remember just reading it recently. Anyway, so Va'omar Aleichem, and I said to you, Beta Hilemo at that time, saying, Lo Chalavadil I can't do this alone. That's what he said. I can't carry alone. Enough is enough. And what's going on there? He says, Amalem Moshe Maluma Atzmi Ani Omer Lechem. I didn't say it for myself. I said it from the mouth of Hashem. I can't do this alone. So Rashi says, Moshe is it possible that Moshe couldn't judge Israel? Adam is it possible that the person who brought them out of Mitzrayim, ripped apart the sea for them, brought down, caused the mountain to come down, caused the quail to come through his prayers, he couldn't judge him? This is what he said to him. Hashem, your God here by Etchem, He greatly increased you. Higdil ve'herim Etchem al diyanachem. So they're all coming to the. He made big and brought up on your judges. He made them. He grandized the judges. Not to the onesh mikavanat al diyanim. He took the punishment from you and put him on the judges. In other words, the leaders are responsible for the people. Okay. So he said that's not normal. And every other king, if you make every other judge, the judge makes a mistake, no big deal. I haven't made a mistake. Comes to the Jews, you make a mistake, you have to pay for the mistake.
Instead of the people, the congregation getting in trouble, the judges would be held responsible for the congregation. Something like the princes, right?
What?
The princes or the Sanhedrin?
Sanhedrin, the judges. The judges, in other words, if the judge judges incorrectly, the judge is held responsible. It's a famous thing that we always have, that if I give the wrong ruling, your sin is on me. The Eruv goes down because it was never a good Eruv. Guess what? Is it my fault? It's not my fault. I trusted you. Now, maybe I was dumb to trust you. Right. But assuming that you had a good reputation, as a Talmud Chacham, whatever else, and you were a good Eruv guy, so then I'm trusting you for that. I walk into community, I'm trusting you. Now you're going to tell me, the Eruv was never good to begin with? Guess what? You have a lot of sins on your shoulders. Good luck to you. That's why people are very reticent about giving halacha, about doing anything, because they don't want the sins. It's not like the old days where you would have one rabbi in the town and 250 miles and no telephone. Now the rabbi, that's why it says, Makom she'ein ish. Makom she'ein anashim ish. The place where there's no men, no people are going to take the responsibility. You have to do it. Okay, so fine. But it's not a great thing. It's not something we all like to do. And that's, so that's what he's saying. I needed help. So what happens? And the next verse says, Hashem, your God has increased you. And today you are like the stars. Oh, Rashi says, wait a second. What do you mean the stars? Well, they were like the stars in those days? Are you kidding me? Rashi says, there were 600,000 people here. What are you talking about? 2,600,000. And 1,730 people, men, between the ages of 20 to 60. Add in double amount. Give me 2 million. Give me 3. Who cares? That's all the stars there are in the galaxy? I think not. That's what Rashi said. What do you mean today you're like the stars? She says, today you're compared to like the day, just as the day just as for the sun, the moon, and the stars will exist forever, so will you. Okay, that's what he meant. He didn't mean literally you're all as numerous as the stars, because we're not that numerous. We only had, again, at most 3 million. So there's many more stars than that. Yeah. So here The ArtScroll felt obligated even to look at this. He said at that time, the Jewish population was not nearly as great as the number of the stars. Moshe's comparison was to the permanence of the heavenly bodies, like Rashi says. Alternatively, this term is a figure of speech and not meant literally. You see, ArtScroll also has to deal with people who are saying, "What are you talking about?" Okay, but, it's very smart that they bring these things down. Okay, so then it says, and that's the end of the first aliyah, by the way. Hashem Elokei Avotechem, so Hashem, the God of your fathers, Yosef Aleichem, He should add upon you, Elef Pamim, 1,000, like you 1,000 times. And then Hashem, He blessed them as He spoke, as He spoken of you. Rashi says, wait a second, you gave him a bracha, right? So he says, Mahu Shuv. Why does he say again, after saying he should increase you 1,000 times, then he added, Hashem should bless you, like he said. Ela Amru lo Moshe. Moshe, so he said to Moshe, are you giving us a fixed number to our blessing here? Okay? Note, Hashem already told to Abraham, if anybody can count your descendants, that's how many you're going to have. Nobody able to be counted. And you told me 1,000 more. You limited me. You limited my riches. Okay? If you're a millionaire and somebody says to you, you should have 1,000 more. Why? Why only 1,000? Why a million? I should have 1 trillion more. What are you limiting my brachas for? So he says, I'm alehem. No. Moshe said to them, Yizum mishalihi. This is my bracha from me. Aval hu yivarech. But etchem kashi diber lechem. Hashem should give you a bracha like He said. He should make you a universe. I should say, I'll give you a little more. No problem. More than what Hashem wants. It's like the old joke of, you should live to 120 and 1 day. You should have time to realize you're going to die. So, okay. You have to have 1 more day. Okay, fine.
So even in the last 5 weeks, he's rebuking them and giving them all stuff. Then but what about you don't limit our blessings?
No, because they're right. You're limiting my bracha, so don't limit my bracha. God gave me more than you're giving me. Why do you want to limit me? She said, no, it's in addition to what Hashem wants. Fine. Now this next pasuk is read in the tone of Eicha. Eicha is alevad, okay? That's how we read that pasuk. Okay? And it's because it starts with the word Eicha. And this parsha is always read the week before Tish B'Av. It's always. That's how it always falls out. So that's why we get everybody in the mood with this one line, Eichas Alavati. And then it says, how can I alone carry your contentiousness, your burdens, and your quarrels? Okay? So that's like I said, everybody will do that in the Eichet tune, a trope, and then go right back to normal trope. But it's something you can always look forward to when it comes to this time of year. So he says, when it says, how can I carry you it alone? How can I lift your burdens alone? If it's just to receive the reward, I cannot do that. So that's why I said to you, I didn't say it on my own. Ella, I said it because Hashem told me to say these things. I didn't do it for the reward. I didn't do it again, going back to politicians, they'll always say, I did this. I'm the one that lowered unemployment to the lowest unemployment. Believe me, folks, I know what I'm doing, sort of thing. Okay, Obama had his hope and change, and look what I'm doing for you. And Bush had what you were talking about. Read my lips. I won't raise taxes. Right? HW. Okay, but it's everybody had their taglines of what they would do. Okay, and Moshe is saying, I didn't do anything. I didn't make these rules up. They're all from the Bon Shalom. Leave me alone. I didn't do it. Eichas alavati. How can I do this alone? Tarchachem, your problems. Melamed. Shal Yisrael tarchanem. So we're learning from this. The Jews were, at least for Moshe, not happy people. They were a pain in the neck. Hayecha mehem roed baal dino notzeich bedin. A person would see that his the opponent was being victorious in judgment. Omer, so they would say, Yeshli Edom Lavi, I have witnesses to bring. Yeshli Rayot Lahavi, I have other proofs to bring. Most Beni Aleichem Dayanim, let's put more judges here, right? In other words, I'm not through yet. I'm not through. They see they're about to lose. No, I'm not through. Masachem and your problems. Malam Mishayu Pikorsim. From here we see the people are Pikorsim. Hiktim Moshe would say when Moshe would be the first one to leave. Amru, they would say, Mara ben Amram, let's say. What did Ben Amram? They don't even call him Moshe at that point. Now it's a derogatory term. What did he have to see to leave? What did he see? Shema eno shafoi betoch beto. Oh, it must be that there's not peace in his household. So he's going home to his wife. It must be the kids, the wives, something's going on. Ichal said if he was late in leaving. Amru Mara Ben Amram Shalot to say why isn't Ben Amram leaving? Matem Omrim, Matem Sovrim. Sovrim, what do you think? Yoshev Yoetz Alechem Eitzo Ra Over Choshev Alechem Machshavo. So maybe he's thinking about us and counseling bad things to happen to us. That must be what he's doing. That's why he's late in leaving. Moshe was losing no matter what. If he came early, so then he has problems in his house. If he stays late, he's planning and making diabolical rules against us. He's trying to take us over. We're going to turn it into whatever it's going to be. V'rivchem, and so what does that teach? They were always being angry at each other. Okay, fine. Moshe's not having a good time. That's what it clearly is showing. Okay. And he was really taking on the role of the Rav, which never wins, right? The rabbi, let's be honest with ourselves. When the rabbi is hired, before he's hired, they want to see how fast he davens. Okay, if he, depending on how black the hat is, if he's going to daven 20 minutes, then they look and say, what is he, Rosh Yeshiva? Rosh Yeshiva, what are you taking so long for? If he davens in 5 minutes or beats the congregants, so some congregants say, Baruch Hashem. The other congregants say he has no kavana, so he can't win again. Okay? Then, or he goes fast on one of the congregants, and the other congregant is leading the prayer, so they're going to say to him, Rabbi, I have to slow down, because it's not nice that you're finishing before him, and he's shaggis, he didn't do, okay, fine. Then he doesn't, then he walks into a place to, and he doesn't eat. They're going to say, so the food must not be kosher, or he's eating everything. The food. The guy's he trusts that Oshkocha. I can't believe he trusts that Oshkocha. What kind of nonsense? We hired this guy. He can't win. Okay, Mamish can't win. I don't speak from personal experience, except for one time it happened but it was more of a joke. I went into the place. And I didn't eat because I wasn't hungry. So what I did was I actually took a banana, so really I wanted. So once somebody came up to me and said, Rabbi, at least I know the bananas are kosher. Okay, very nice. But like I said, he was kidding. But I'm sure there were some people who were serious. Right? He knew there was just a joke that he had with me. But it was still funny when you and sad at the same time when you hear it, right? So it's. But that's what Moshe had to deal with. There's nothing new under the sun with this. Okay? Nothing.
Say it ain't so.
What?
Say it ain't
Yeah.
so.
Yes. Okay, so now what happens? So Moshe says, so a point for you, or I guess you would say a point. How does he translate this? Provide for yourselves. There you go. Provide for yourselves wise, intelligent, and knowing men. He says, wise, understanding, and well-known men to your tribes, and I will make them your heads. Rashi says on this, where is it? When he said men, what you would have thought he meant women? What do you mean by men? Tzaddikim. You mean tzaddikim. It can't just be men. It has to be righteous men. Then why chacham and kesufim, and they again people who have who are I can't think of what the word would be. What?
Wise understanding.
Sufim is on that, but I can't pull out my mind right now. So we'll pass that. And then I hate when that happens. I just get blocked on some words. And then Nevonim, Mevinim Davar, Mitok Davar. A person who understands is somebody who can distinguish, to learn one thing from something else. And that is what Arios is from the Gemara. Arios asked Rav Yossi, what's the difference between Nechachamim and Nevonim? So he says, a Chacham is compared to a rich, compared to a money changer. The rich come to him with the dinar to show him, and he sees it. And when they don't bring it to him, he sits and contemplates. Or he's in the store, he doesn't leave. A Navon, a person who can get one point to the next, he is compared to a money changer that is going out. So when you bring him money, he sees it. When you don't bring him money, he goes and brings it from other people for himself. So that's the guy he's the entrepreneur who keeps wanting to go out and get something else, versus the guy who sits in the store and waits. That's the Sufim. That's the Chachamim. He just stands there while the Nevonim will try to learn everything out of it. Okay, and then it says, "Be known to your friend, to your neighbor, your tribe." She says that they have to be recognizable to you. Why? Because if somebody comes wrapped in the talis, I wouldn't know who it is, but when he's known, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, but once these guys see him, you know he's good. Okay, so they'll know who he is. That's why they want to appoint somebody. That's why they want to appoint those people. They also bring out, Ramban brings out that this, if you remember, there were 7 midot, 7 traits that Yitro told Moshe to look for, and only 3 traits are here, and that's because that's all they could find. Also, it doesn't say Yitro told him to do it because he doesn't want to bring up, according to Ramban, he doesn't want to bring up the whole thing of Yitro because that would mean that he has to say the father-in-law, and his wife, who was a Midianite, he'd have to get into the whole thing of she converted beforehand or was converted at Har Sinai. He doesn't want to get into that anymore. So it's done. It's 40 years past. He doesn't want to get stuck. You know, that's something that's very important too when you're speaking. Sometimes you want to just get to the point. Let's not get the side points in. Okay, where people can start asking 1,000 different questions that mean nothing to them. And then it says, "V'talnu oti," and you answered me, "V'tormu tov hadavar shedibarta lasot." Great, Moshe, that's what you want. Let's do it. Well, that seems like praise, right? That's a praise. Right. They said, "Great, Moshe, whatever you want to do." Sounds like praise, but he's in rebuke mode now. So how's he rebuking them? He's saying what?
Sarcasm?
No. He's not saying sarcasm. He's saying, you said that to me, but it wasn't because you wanted, because you agree with my plan. It's because you knew that now I could corrupt justice more.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
Now I remember we can put people who agree with us in charge.
Right, we'll put people that agree with us and put everything else. So it's good what you say. Good, appoint more people because now we can figure out who to appoint. So maybe I'll be nepotism, maybe something else, no problem, okay? So what happens? I took the heads of your tribes. We're on 15. Anashim Chachamim Viduim, again, men with knowledge and understanding. I put them as heads over you. Sorry Elafim, sorry Meyon, sorry Chamashim, sorry Yisrael. Leaders of thousands, leaders of hundreds, leaders of 50s, leaders of 10. And officers over your people. Okay, and it says, how did I take them? Again, whenever you're saying I took a person, you have to, it means meshachtem devarim. I dragged them with words, and I said ashreichem. Happy are you? Al mi batem lehimanot. Who are you being appointed over to supervise? Al bnei Avram Yishkov Yaakov. Over the children of Avram Yishkov Yaakov. Al bnei Adam shnikru achim v'reim. On people who are called to God, brothers and loved ones. So it's tremendous. It's great what you're being appointed. Yeah.
So he practiced his induction speech for Yeshua on the leaders first.
Yeah, Mastama. Yeah, Yeshua will be later. Yeah, sure. Yep. Absolutely. He didn't practice. He just knew how to talk to people. Yep. So happy are you. You're so fortunate. I mean, that's what it really means. Fortunate. You're so fortunate that you have been picked to lead these people, these wonderful people of Avram. What could you ask for? What better could you ask for? Look at the tremendous reward and responsibility that you have. By the way, think about it. It's true. Okay. When you you never had you were too young. Your sister's how old compared to you?
A couple years older than us.
Couple of years. Okay. Did she have a babysit for you guys?
Babysit, technically, I guess.
Technically, good. So when your parents said to your sister, "Okay, you have the control here," they have to listen, and she told you and your brother, "Okay, you're going to listen to your sister, your sister. When she wants to go to bed, you go to bed. It's blah blah blah." So she's given responsibility, right? Oh, that makes her feel great. Whether or not she lived up to that, I'm not going to argue. But she feels great. Everybody feels great about that, right? So the same thing here. Ashreichem, you're fortunate. You're given the leadership. Okay, and then of course here's what Rashi says: Nevonim, the people Nevonim who could go from point to point, that I didn't find, and that's Rashi says it. That is one of the 7 characteristics that Yitro said, and we only found 3. Fine, okay. So. And when it says there should be heads over you, that means to nahagu bahem kavod, that you the people have to conduct yourselves with kavod toward them. In other words, they should be first in business. Okay, if they have to be first dibs on business. Also in selling, if they want to buy something, then they should be able to buy it first. That's the right of being. That responsibility. Also, buying and selling. So selling, buying and selling, purchasing. They enter into the Beit Knesset first, and they enter from the house to the Beit Knesset last, and they come out first. Why would they go out last? What happens when a Rav enters the shul, and you're there? You stand up, kavod, right? You have to stand up. It's like when your parents come in the room and you're in the room, you're supposed to stand up, kavod. Okay, when the president comes in the room, oh, you ever want to see kavod? I'll show you kavod. Watch the State of the Union address. Like him or hate him, the president. Like him or hate him, they all stand up. Doesn't matter. Okay, you have to stand up. You walk into a courtroom. Like him or hate him, you're standing up for that judge. If you don't stand up, you're in trouble. Everybody stands up. Okay, it's, as one person said, the courtroom is the last place for decorum in the United States of America, because everybody has to stand up and act properly. So that is what you're doing. You're standing up for these people. Okay, and let's go on. I have a couple more minutes, I think. No, I don't. Okay, we'll have to stop there. Okay.